Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. How's that for starting on time? Yeah. Okay, so I'm a minute late. Whatever. Get over it. It's Thursday on the Wake Up America Show. We're glad to have you here today. Hope that your summer's going well. It was nice to see a little bit of rain here in mid-Missouri. Another reason to be excited and happy. We really need it because we're supposed to have a float trip here for all the Cantina crew and the supporters of the show that's coming up here in, like less than a month now? And I keep saying it's not going to be a float trip. It's going to be more of a damp walk. Yeah, because we really haven't had much rain here in mid-Missouri, but we finally got some, and that's definitely put me in a good mood this morning. It's funny, I bought this really nice rain jacket at the beginning of the summer thinking, oh, I'm going to get to wear my cool rain jacket, and that's what I did. I think I kind of jinxed it because, and then I wore it this morning thinking, oh, I might get rained on. And as soon as I stepped outside with my rain jacket on, it stopped raining. Oh, whatever. Nobody cares about that stuff. Glad to have you here. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend. Good morning here. She's got something funny to say. She says, on the 4th of July, I sent 2 super chats. Google stole one of them because I made a reference to butt sex. So I'll be donating on Rumble from now on. Okay. Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend, a soggy stroll, if you will. Burnt Toast, I think we might need to make you a co-host of the show if you keep being funnier than I am. That's some good stuff. Welcome to the stream. We're glad to have you here. Make sure you click like from where you're watching us on. It helps us to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. It doesn't cost you much, if anything at all. Nothing at all, actually. Just click that like button. I know on Rumble you have to log in, so if you're tuning into us on Rumble this morning, you're like, oh my God, I'm watching the show, but I'm not able to like it. You got to sign in first. The Onion Dip says death is a preferable alternative to communism. Hell yeah, boy, are you guys in a good mood today? European Tin Beater says, yes, we did need it. Hopefully more today. Yes, please. And I really, really wish it would rain down. Glad to have you here. Chris Morrill says, Missouri's floating rivers are spring-fed, so don't worry too much about rain or lack thereof. Well, I'll just tell you, the problem is, Chris, is that last time we went down to the Bass River Resorts, and by the way, you're going, right? Because it's not like it's that far from you. You better be there, Chris. It was not, it was, it was very low. So we definitely need some water to supplement it. We'd love to hear from you this morning. A text. Actually, I was thinking about you, Chris Morrill, in the shower this morning. You know how that is. And I was just kind of curious because Chris, Chris is a complainer, and that's fine. He's a supporter. He's a monthly supporter of the show. He's a big fan. He's there. He's a moderator of the show. But he's a complainer. So, I see him. He doesn't like it when we talk about the trans stuff. He doesn't like it when we talk about Donald Trump. So I'm actually curious for Chris Morrells out there, the Chris Morrells of the world, and Chris Morrill himself. What kind of stories do you like on the show, Chris? I'd be really curious to hear. I know you probably like me making Camellia blush, which is definitely going to happen later on the show today when we get Camellia Peterson on the show for her regular Tuesday, Thursday appearance. And normally we have Daniela, but it's the summer, so a lot of people take vacations and things. So Daniela's not going to be with us today. I know. We will have JD Tuccille on the show today, though, and he's going to respond to the controversy with Reason Magazine, where they're just getting blasted by libertarians over their attacks on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And I know that this is going to make me unpopular, but you know what? Here's the thing. The thing is that they're saying that the reason why they're attacking RFK Jr. is over the vaccine stuff, and it's like this is the wrong thing to be attacking him on, blah 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 blah. And it's like, no, actually, it's not, because the things that Liz Wolfe said in that video, and trust me, I'm not a big fan of Liz Wolfe. The things that Liz Wolfe was saying in that video that we showed on this show yesterday, were facts, right? She was just showing the facts to counter what RFK Jr. was saying about vaccines. He would take a kernel of truth and then extrapolate wildly from it. And that's what a lot of conspiracy theorist types do, right? And as you know, if you watch the Wake Up America show, there are some conspiracies that I indulge, like the lab leak theory of COVID-19, which I called before anybody else, and I was called a conspiracy theorist for. And there are some conspiracy theories that are fairly easy to debunk. So that gets you no end of hate, right? If you attack Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because he thinks that there's a likelihood that vaccines cause autism, then you're going to get in trouble with the libertarian community because, look, quite frankly, we're overrun. We are absolutely besotted with uncritical thinkers in the liberty movement. It's kind of sad to see, but that's what happens when you have groups that are out of power. And it's a great book I'm reading right now by Michael Shermer called Conspiracy. And I don't want to go into this rabbit hole for too long. I'll just say I highly recommend it, where he talks about groups that are out of power will always have conspiracy theories. It's like when Hillary Clinton's people were conspiracy theorizing about Trump and Russia, with the whole Trump Russia collusion narrative with the Steele dossier. That was all conspiracy theorizing because the Democrats were out of power. So they make up conspiracy theories and lies about Donald Trump and his ties to Russia, because that's what people who are out of power do, and it's a way for them to try and get power. The only unfortunate problem is that it hasn't helped libertarians gain power pretty much at all, right? And I feel that there's a large amount of desperation that has played into the Robert F. Kennedy fascination with libertarians, because we are so much more fractured than we were during the Tea Party and the Ron Paul eras, where we had institutional support, and we had sitting members of Congress who were saying the word libertarian in advocating for ideas. But we've really allowed ourselves to be overrun with this populism. This anti-elitism comes an anti-intellectualism, and I can't get on board with that, because while I despise many of the mainstream elites that we have in this country, while I do think that many of the elites that we have in this country work, actively do conspire against us in many ways, and while I don't trust the experts in many ways, and I look at the COVID issue as a giant conspiracy by the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum as a way to gain more power, much as I see, the climate change narratives and things like that. It's not to say I don't want. It's the same reason I want my airplane pilot to be have someone of merit, right? To be an expert versus just hiring a person of color to go and sit in my airline seat, right? I'm not going and getting some internet commenters' opinions on vaccines. Okay. It's the same reason, right? I'm not going to get the internet commenter, the RFK fans' opinion on vaccines. The same reason I'm not going to go and get some leftist, view of airline pilots and say, "Oh, I want my airline pilot to be a woman of color." Right? Same reason I think black, the choice of Supreme Court Justice by Joe Biden, Ketanji Brown Jackson, or Jackson Brown Jackson, uh, was ridiculous. Right? It's why affirmative action should be overturned. Right? So you have to have experts. Right, but you do have to check them and to ensure that they're not confirming their own biases, which we all do, right? Very, very, very small amount of people in this world are able to see their own biases and be able to check for them. We all engage in this cognitive play that maintains our worldview, because quite frankly, most of us we live in an absolute utter state of fear and terror and paranoia, and none more so really than my libertarian friends and colleagues. So yesterday, somebody was trying to, pitch RFK Jr. to me by saying, "Oh, we got a standing ovation at Pork Fest." And I'm like, "Yeah, the interesting thing is," and I'm going to talk to JD Tuccille about this a little bit later because he is an anarchist. The interesting thing that I've learned after 15 years of being in the libertarian movement is that anarchists love them some politicians, as long as it's the right politician telling them the right things that they want to hear. And he says he's for privacy. He says he's anti-war. Is bullshit. A politician who is telling you what you want to hear after they're running for office, which goes against everything that they were saying before they ran for office. How gullible can you be? How gullible can you be? Right? But does openly advocate for gun control, right? I mean, just again, I can't fall for RFK's BS any longer, right? It's not for me. It's not for me. We'll talk about that a little bit longer in the show. Send me a text if you like at 573-319-1586. Lovely Rare Camellia joins us and says, "Besotted is such a great word." Yes, it is. Thank you. I do believe I get $5 for that. Rare Camellia says they're also griping. They don't think they should have asked RFK all those things when they interviewed him. Like, shut up. They gave him a platform and then they gave the other side. Yes, agree. Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend, who's like my new favorite. She's my new favorite internet girlfriend. She says, "We don't have to like someone in order to agree with what they're saying once in a while." Exactly true. I love it. Great point of view. Nelson65 says, "No, you have to have a transgender pilot." That's hilarious. The Onion Dip, who I think must be on the conspiracy side, says facts. LMAO, shut up. F word that people use for gay. He says vaccines do cause autism, and Dr. Wakefield was proven right. The Onion Dip, just because you have autism does not mean that it's because of the vaccines, brother. Just kidding. I love you, bro. You can text the show again today, 573-319-1586. I do think a lot of the vaccines cause autism thing comes from a lot of parents who like had kids with autism that are in denial that their genetics gave their kid autism because it is genetic. And it's nobody wants to think that they had a child that like because they don't want to blame themselves. So they blame doctors and they blame big pharma, which is hilarious because the funny thing is about libertarians is that they are all like so besotted with drugs. They hate big pharma, but they love them some some illegal pharmaceuticals. And hey, believe me, I think adults should be allowed to do as they please. But I just always love the irony of my libertarian friends who like will smoke, poke, toke, anything, and then be like, oh, I'm not taking that, that I'm not taking that laboratory tested stuff. I want it to come from a black guy on the street corner. That's where I get my drugs. Am I wrong here? Anyways, Matt Unruh says, "Oh, Matt's coming to the trip. He says he's going to keep the $5 word log during the flow trip. Hell yeah, Matt! Glad to have you here, bud." All right, all right, all right. So I guess I have to read this story because I've already been talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and I can't bitch about him enough just because there's such a lack of critical thinking regarding this guy amongst my own people, right? The funny thing is that you'll see like these like MSNBC Democrats attacking Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and even I'm just kind of like, ugh, good.
No, God! No,
Because
God,
they're
please,
such
no,
giant
no.
vajayjays about it, right? It's like, I attack Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from the right and the left, right? As you should. But I haven't picked a presidential candidate yet. And, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the sad thing is that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is actually one of the saying things that I like. And I like that he's getting some of these issues out here. But if you think that I'm going to have a politician come across this show and not be critical of them, you're watching the wrong show, baby. I promise you, if you're watching us on Rumble right now, for example, you can go to the front page of Rumble, don't do it now, and see there will be a dozen shows easily that will be talking right now about how much Trump is amazing and screw DeSantis and all this kind of stuff. And then you'll get a few DeSantis supporting people, stuff like that, and they will just give the whole cracker to some politician. This is not the I Love Politicians show. This is the every single politician, even your favorite autism politician, even Vivek Ramaswamy is going to get criticism on this show because guess what? Before I go into the voting booth next year, and before you go into the voting booth next year, if you watch the Wake Up America show, you're going to get you're going to make sure that you know all the pros and cons of every candidate before you go into that voting booth, right? You're not going to be like pumped up full of insulin on, and diabetes on, all the donut eating Trump supporters who, drinking the Kool-Aid for sure with tons and tons of sugar. You're going to know everything about your candidates so that you're going to make an informed decision, right? Because being critical of politicians is the libertarian way, not being uncritical of politicians and giving them standing ovations at anarchist festivals. Weirdos. All right. What have we got? What have we got? What have we got? Okay, so not Steffi. Camellia sent me this story this morning, and I guess I already have to read it because I'm laughing my ass off at it. You guys are gonna laugh too. Please forgive me for reading an article nearly verbatim on the show, but when I started reading it this morning, I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious. Presidential hopeful Robert F. Kennedy Jr. threw a press dinner on Tuesday night that devolved into a shouting match between two elderly men. A bizarre conflict that reportedly ended with a prolonged bout of flatulence. I kid you not. It ended with a giant fart. No, I'm not joking. Listen to this. As relayed by a Page Six reporter who was present. Page Six is the gossip column for the New York Post, which is a really great read, by the way. The mess, as relayed by a Page Six reporter who was present, the mess started after a guest asked Kennedy a question about the environment, an innocent enough inquiry that enraged former gossip columnist Doug DeShare, the reportedly drunk host of the whole event. The climate hoax, DeShare started to yell. His senile screams drew the ire of his longtime friend, art critic Anthony Hayden Guest, who wasted no time condemning Deshert and pleading for him to shut up. But Deshert was relentless, continuing to rant about the scam of climate change, Team Deshert, while Hayden Guest disparaged him with insults, calling him effing insane and insignificant. That's when Deshert brought out his secret weapon, a booming fart that he released while shouting, "I'm farting!" All the while, RFK Jr. calmly watched the gaseous chaos unfold. Deshert said the following to Page 6 about the incident. "I apologize for using my flatulence as a medium of public commentary in your presence." Oh my God. And I love this. And my buddy Chris Spangle pointed this out this morning that it's hilarious that this is all in the background of a debate about emissions. Senile Screams would be an excellent band name. Yes, very good. Berto Space Girlfriend. Are you a writer by chance? Berto Space Girlfriend, do you need a job? Because I really like your commentary. I love this stuff. The climate hoax, Deshert started to yell, "Hell yeah." Deshert brought out a secret weapon, a booming fart. I love that he was farting and it was loud enough for everybody to hear it, but that wasn't enough. He had to shout, "I'm farting." Oh my God. Oh my God. That is good stuff. That is some good stuff. If you're just tuning in the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. We're glad to have you here. Whoa, oh my God. Oh man, stories like these, just,
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
glad to have you here on the show. We do love it when our listeners chime in with text messages at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. We'd love to hear from you on that one. Why don't you send us a text? Do so right now at 573-319-1586. You guys want to have some more fun and just do some funny stuff here because I got 40 minutes to kill and lots of silliness here. Tell you what, here's a viral video. Let's just stay off of like the hard news today. Yesterday was all like dark stuff, and we will get into RFK Jr. a little bit later again with JD Tuccille. But did you guys see this video yesterday of this guy? This couple ostensibly is mad at their neighbor for allegedly feeding their cat, and their cat doesn't want to hang out with them anymore and only wants to hang out with the neighbor. So these two neighbors, the kind of hippie type people that you're getting to watch, they're angry at the guy who's filming them for their cat going over to his house and spending more time with him than he does with them. This is the biggest viral video in the world right now. Watch.
Keeping it in your
No,
yard,
I'm not.
and it's our cat.
You understand?
Our cat.
I'm not even in my yard right now. What am I doing? The gate's open.
You're unreasonable people. You're holding our cat.
How? I'm not even in there. I want you to explain how.
If you would go in your yard and say, "Mercury, go home. Don't come in our yard anymore."
She
they
will
want
not
you
listen.
to.
She's a cat. She doesn't speak English.
Oh, really? This doesn't mean go home?
No.
Huh?
Hand signals don't mean anything. It's a cat, dude.
Really? Okay. All right. Well, we'll have the police department figure it out.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Great idea.
All right.
Let the police figure that
so
out.
the cat doesn't eat and drink anything over there, right?
No.
Oh, no, never. Right? No, never.
No.
No, never.
Never. Yeah, never.
Yeah, you cat pervert.
Oh my God, you guys are asking.
I've done nothing to bring the cat. I've done nothing to bring the.
Literally Karen.
This dude's
Cat
lost.
pervert.
This dude, he's lost it. He's lost it.
Stop.
Oh my God. Okay, so Camellia has to make it serious. What's wrong with you, Camellia? Stop it.
God!
Boo, Camellia. She says this is a big deal, actually. You never feed someone else's dog or cat. All right, Camellia, weigh in on this. Okay, you never feed someone else's dog or cat. Okay, fine. Is this actually an actual problem that people encounter, that somebody is feeding someone else's dog or cat? I don't know. All I know is that the guy who is filming this video is very likely to be a cat pervert. It is alleged. However, I will say that the evidence for him being a cat pervert is very strong.
He's lost it.
It's
our
not.
cat.
He's lost it. He's lost it. Oh no.
Come on, let's have
On my property.
Then we're calling the police because you're harboring our cat.
Harboring a cat.
Harboring our cat.
Is that a crime? What? It was something
You're a
else.
cat pervert.
I'm a cat pervert?
Yeah, cat
What
pervert.
crime is that? What crime is that?
You know what? There's a crime about you harboring my cat.
What crime is that?
It's against the law.
What crime is that?
It's called harboring an animal.
I can understand being
Is it
angry
really?
if my cat was in your yard. You're angry because your cat is in my yard.
You're making things a lot worse.
T-
Right? You could just send my cat home.
No, I can't.
Yeah, you can. All you have to do is send the guy's cat home is be like, and then the cats will understand that, right? You send the cat. That's how you send the cat home. Is the cat, By the way, do we have any cat experts in the house? Like, do cats actually, if you go like that? I mean, if you shoo them, right? I mean, the guy does have a point, right? You don't have to go like, oh, you don't have to like. Somebody explain this to me, please. Okay, for the love of God. Cats, I think, do what they want. I'm not sure about that, but the cat pervert thing, I think, is totally legit. I would have thought the guy was a cat pervert as well. Are you drinking woke coffee? Is your coffee communist? It's time for us to have a little talk. Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com. Okay, so there it is. That was my coffee commercial, right? And for some reason, this coffee commercial drove the wokes absolutely bonkers. When I posted this video a couple of days ago, this week, Stephanie and I, my wife, launched our very first coffee brand at apforlibertyshop.com, a patriotic coffee brand. And I thought, okay, so let's have a coffee company that supports our values, right? So when you buy your daily cup of coffee, if you drink Founding Flavors, you know that not only are you getting a delicious premium quality coffee, better than Starbucks, better than Dunkin' Donuts, better than Black Rifle Coffee, you're actually going to be drinking coffee that supports your values. And you know that when you're buying and drinking Founding Flavors coffee, I'm going to use it for things like the Wake Up America show. And I'm going to use it for things like my documentary at the end of this month. Well, the left went absolutely insane. Like, they're like, is this a parody? Is this supposed to be a joke? Blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, it's supposed to be kind of funny. It is supposed to be kind of silly. But I didn't realize, I mean, like, there were leftists that were rage tweeting about this video. I mean, it's just basic American patriotism, but that just goes to show how much they hate America, and which a lot of them, they do recognize that when they're buying coffee from Starbucks, they know that they're supporting woke causes. And a lot of conservatives actually got mad at me over this too, because I'm going up against Black Rifle Coffee, which they think supports their values. Well, yeah, if you're a neocon who supports the CIA, yeah, if you're drinking Black Rifle Coffee, you're drinking CIA coffee, right? So do you support the CIA? Do you support the feds? Are you a Fed? Okay, no. Are you a communist? I don't think so. So why are you drinking CIA or communist coffee? But then I repeat myself. Why don't you switch or at least try a bag of Founding Flavors coffee and tell me if you like it? And if you do like it, consider the switch. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, oh, well, wait, Austin, your coffee's a little bit more expensive. But here's the deal. If you go to Founding Flavors coffee, let me show you how this works really briefly. Then I'll move off of this because I know it's an ad, but still, this is my livelihood and this is how I'm able to fund my activism. And if you believe in the things that I believe, this is a way for you to support that and still get your delicious coffee that I drink every day, right? So there's coffee bundles on the site. You can give it as a gift to somebody if you have a Liberty lover in your life. Look at this. We got 59 reviews on our site, diamond transparency, 59 verified reviews on our site, top 10% in trending websites in terms of verified reviews. So you know that we're legit. You can save money. If you want to buy more than one bag, go to the bundles page. If you want, let's say you want Jeffersonian Java and Washington's Revolutionary Roast, you're going to save 5%. Just make sure that you select the variant you want, ground or whole bean. Let's say I want ground. You can do a one-time purchase, or you can set yourself up for every 1, 2, or 3 months. So try the one-time purchase. Get yourself a bag or two of the coffee. And remember, the delivery is free. So if you're in the United States, it's free delivery. So you don't have to think, oh, well, once I get to the end of the cart, it's going to be all this. Because here's the thing. Other coffee companies will actually charge you more than this for some of this. And they'll charge you for delivery because we're actually not the most expensive. Now, I know some of you like Chris Moore are like, I'm just going to go to Sam's Club and I'm going to buy from my local spot for $6 or whatever. I understand that. I get it. And people, times is hard and you got to do what's best for your budget. However, if you want a premium roast, if you want great quality coffee and you don't want to support the CIA and you don't want to support communists at Starbucks and woke issues that you disagree with, then try my coffee today. And if you like it and you want more of it, sign up for a subscription bundle because then you can really save money, 5, 10, 12% based on how much. And you're like, Austin, how much? Why can't I save more? Well, the margins for the coffee is very, very small for us. When you buy like t-shirts or different things like that, we make a higher margin. But we are really taking a risk with coffee because it's a very small margin. It's a very huge risk because it's very competitive. And when you take on big coffee, just like you take on big tech or anything like that, people get angry at you, as you've seen. I mean, some people are like libertarians are mad at me because they have their own coffee brand. But the fact is that we are the only pro-America, pro-liberty, woke-free coffee on the market. Check us out, ap4libertyshop.com. How does that sound? Okay. Andy Maidman says you need a Sally Hemings light roast. Well, I think you're going to like what we've got coming because this is just the start of our founding flavors coffee brands. We're going to be expanding into new brands through our consumables marketplace. And I think you guys are really going to be excited by what we have coming up. I think you're really going to like it. So keep an eye out what we've got, right? I don't support the CIA, but I do support the JON. What does that mean, John? John says that he can't wait till he gets his. Yeah, they are in the mail. I've already checked on the subscription stuff. It's already on the way. Quantum Kitty says that Black Rifle is pretty poor quality, at least the batch I got to sample last year. That's what I've heard as well, Quantum. And we found a really premium bean supplier for ours. So would you do me a favor? Just try a bag. See if you like it. And if you do like it, consider buying from us because I think, if you're going to drink something every day and it's going to be a part of your life like it is for me, then consider supporting someone who supports the issues and the policies that you support. Nelson65 says you need a CBD brand. I cannot do that because I don't want to compete against my buddy John Burke. He's got a CBD company and he sponsors this show. So I will, out of respect to him, I will leave the CBD to John Burke at shellshockcbd.com. How does that sound? Okay, that's how this works. Let's continue on in the show. If you are tired of all the very serious people Camellia tweeted, this morning's show is for you. I know what AP for Liberty and I are supposed to talk about, but who knows where that will end up. That's right. We know that Camellia and I are going to have some fun today on the Wake Up America show. John is a coffee pervert here. Yes, coffee perverts. We are all coffee perverts on the Wake Up America show. In order for us to wake up, we need our coffee in the morning.
Keeping it in your
No, I'm
yard,
not.
and it's our cat.
You understand?
Our cat.
I'm not even in my yard right now. What am I doing? The gate's open.
Come on.
Hard.
You're unreasonable people. You're holding our cat.
How? I'm not even in there. I want you to explain how.
If you would go in your yard and say, Mercury, go home. Don't come in our yard anymore.
She
they
will
want
not.
you to...
She's a cat. She doesn't speak English.
Oh, really? This doesn't mean go home?
No.
Huh?
Hand signals don't mean anything. It's a cat, dude.
Really? Okay. All right. Well, we'll have the police department figure it out.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Great idea.
All right. No, so the cat doesn't eat and drink anything over there, right?
No.
Oh, no, never. Right? No, never.
No.
No, never.
Never. Yeah, never.
Yeah, you cat pervert.
Oh my God, you got
I have done. I've done nothing to bring the cat. I've done nothing to bring the. This dude's lost. This dude, he's lost it. He's.
I love that, like, you can hear, like, this girl on the side of the camera. You can actually hear her trying to call him a Karen, which normally would be, like, destruction if you get called a Karen, but this guy, no, not destruction. This guy, with his cat pervert, has just absolutely blown them out. Cat pervert beats Karen. I gotta say, congratulations to the cat pervert guy for becoming an awesome meme. What else have I got for you today? Oh God, so much. I got some dark stuff. I've got some weird stuff. Quantum Kitty says, "What a toddler." Yes, completely agree. If you're just tuning in the Wake Up America show, make sure you click that like button. As you can see from my awesome little subscribe animation right down there, it's telling you what to do. Yes, make sure that you subscribe. Yeah. Pull some Vegeta action down here, Dragon Ball Z. Subscribe to the Wake Up America show so that you can get updates whenever we go live. The Wake Up America show is every Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time, and we are rocking and rolling for 2 hours every Monday through Friday. So, all right, let's see. What else have we got in the kitty? I think this was an interesting story. 1 in 3 Americans apparently choose a sleep divorce to save their marriage. This is something that I've heard that I've heard a lot of couples do, and I've got an interesting, take on this one. Incessant morning alarms and a crescendo of house-rattling snores could drive a wedge in a marriage and make it nearly impossible to sleep, prompting an estimated one-third of couples to file for, quote, sleep divorce. A recent survey from the American Academy of Sleep Medicine of more than 2,000 adults showed that couples are using earplugs, eye masks, silent alarms, and tucking into bed at earlier or later times to accommodate each other and ensure a good night's sleep. You know what's funny is that, like, I snore like a maniac, right? I mean, the only thing that snores louder than me is my dog, but I am a loud snorer and I steal covers and I get up at, my first alarm goes off at 4 a.m. and my last alarm goes off at 4:30 a.m. And my loving wife is right there, right next to me in the morning. And this is why I love her so much, because she sleeps next to me, even though I snore loudly, and she is just so good about it. She never complains. Uh, Even though I have to kick my dog out of our room because his snores are so loud that it keeps me up. Such a hypocrite, I know. But she doesn't mind. She just sleeps right through it. And then, instead of doing what I would do, this is terrible. Instead of doing what I would do in terms of like sleep, because if, let's say, if my wife had to get up at 4 a.m. Or 4:30 and her alarms were going off or something like that, I'm so selfish. I would be like, I would just continue to sleep. But instead of doing that, my wife changed her schedule so that she gets up when I get up. So that it's not, and we're on the same sleep schedule, so that in theory, if she wanted to, she could sleep in till 9 a.m., right? Or she could sleep in till, like, when normal, like, early risers get up at 6 a.m., right? Which is when I get to sleep in till 6 a.m. for me, it's just like such heaven, right? Because obviously I got to get up here for the Wake Up America show way earlier than you guys, so that I can get here, set everything up, and rock and roll out a good show, right? Set all the bells and whistles here on the Wake Up America show. So I got to get my butt up at 4:30 at the absolute latest in order to get in here and do all this kind of stuff. Well, she changed her sleep schedule. I mean, she is just a goddess among women. But what's it like for you with your sleep schedule? Do you guys have a sleep divorce? Sleeping in a separate room is, otherwise known as a sleep divorce. It's kind of a time-honored tradition for mismatched sleeping spouses who are trying to prioritize their shut-eye and try and stave off relationship resentment. Because, I mean, I know I've only been married for almost 2 years now, so you never know what dreams may come. But you never know. A little Shakespeare there for you. But you never know what problems are going to come down the line. And some of you who are watching the show, I'm sure, have been married for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years or so, or more. And if so, congratulations. But also, I can imagine that after a while, resentment can build up. Stephanie and I have had these conversations about, and I have this phrase where it's called familiarity breeds contempt. When you talk about relationships, the more that you know someone, the more familiar you are with them, the more you have contempt for them. And I imagine that this probably happens with people. They don't want to feel that resentment. They don't want to feel that contempt for their partner if their partner's alarms are annoying them way earlier than they would normally be getting up. So people are choosing to sleep apart. However, here's my take on this one. I think it's probably a mistake in one sense. I understand that there are some benefits of it, the pros of it, which I kind of listed there for a moment. But also, I think it's a mistake because that bonding that you experience when you're together, sleeping at night, holding one another, I feel like that is maybe more powerful for keeping your closeness in a relationship than the desire for sleep. But, again, it's hard to know. Everybody's situation is different. I'd really be curious to hear your thoughts on this one. You can either text us at 573-319-1586 this morning. Again, you can text the show at 573-319-1586, or you can, of course, leave a comment on the live stream. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this one. Chris Morrill says that my wife literally hits her snooze button for an hour, which is fine, except when I'm off and I'm trying to sleep in. Barney Style says, my wife and I use separate blankets, and she still steals mine sometimes. That's funny. You know what's funny is my wife and I actually, for like the last week, for whatever reason, we still we started using separate blankets because I like it. I get hot and she gets cold. And I actually kind of resent it because I'm like, then there's this barrier in between us. So I don't know. Wood Hippie says, do you still have a crush on Steffi? You should. A crush on Steffi. Well, that's Wood Hippie is texting me and saying I should have a crush on Steffi. It's really hard to say. I have a passionate love for Stephanie. I have you know what Steffi was really impressed with when I called her my best friend? She really is. I love her like as a lover, and I love her as a best friend. But I never had kind of a childish crush on her. When I think of crush, I think of kind of like a goo goo gaga kind of a oh my god, like I'm crushing, right? I'm thinking about her all the time, stuff like that. But I think always my love for Stephanie really came much more out of a more mature place than that kind of like childlike sort of whimsy that you might have from a crush. But I don't know. Maybe there's something I'm missing there, Wood Hippie. But let us know. You could text me personally, Wood Hippie. Oh, and also Wood Hippie, thank you so much for supporting the documentary. By the way, we appreciated your donation. Nelson65 says, AP, do you stop breathing? You might have sleep apnea. Yeah, probably. I probably have, my jowls are what are getting in the way here. Quantum Kitty says, not resentment. When you have a light sleep night, which happens more for women once they become moms, sleeping through things is rough. So sleeping in another bed is sometimes the only real option. Yeah, no, I get it for sure. He says, we nod off together, but if one of us wakes the other is super restless, the other will go to the other room so we don't keep each other up. That's interesting. You guys can drop your comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, Corey C says it's kind of on the same level as sneaking a peek at your spouse's phone because you're suspicious. Once you end up there, it's already over. That's interesting. Yeah, I kind of wonder that too. If once you start sleeping in other rooms like that, if it sort of creates a divide. And, I know someone who they had their parents slept in different rooms, and like the mother would go out of the room, and when I heard about that, I just couldn't stop but think this is probably like the wedge that really drove them apart. Because I have to say that maybe this isn't even something as a man, like anybody might feel this, but if for like no explanation really whatsoever, if my partner left the room and was like constantly seeking to sleep outside of the room with me, I would really, I think, feel a profound sense of rejection, which is, again, it's selfish of me because I do snore so loud and I probably get restless and I have a early morning alarm, right? So I'm making some pretty big demands on my partner to an extent that I feel like I don't know if I'd have the courage or the power to reciprocate, which again shows my pettiness and my smallness and how human I am, I guess. But so that's definitely, I guess, a character flaw, you might say. But I definitely, I feel as if, and maybe I need to change that about myself. But how often do you hear somebody say that on their shows? Um, I would feel a profound sense of rejection if something like that were to happen, right? Wouldn't you? I mean, am I wrong in feeling that way? I wonder what you think about that. Again, you can text us at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this on the show. You can contact me any way that you like. Tolly says that whatever works for your family, but I prefer the same room and bed. Like AP said, there's a bond, and I think it provides a sense of security for your children. Yeah, for sure. Separate bed, says Dash. Two grown adults, hard to fit comfortably in a full bed. There you go. Yeah, see, Stephanie and I specifically got the king size bed for that reason because when we like go on trips and we're in queen size beds, it does seem like a queen size is pretty small. She also says, always remain each other's boyfriend or girlfriend after marriage. That's my philosophy. Stay playful and flirty. Hot water, 80. I love it, Tully. That's sexy. Me and my wife work opposite schedules. She's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and I'm 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So we don't have to worry about sleeping issues, but we relish the times we can sleep together on weekends. Amen. Yeah, God, we all love it. Barney Styles says, I think we are all aware Stephanie is a saint. Yes, it's very true. She is an angel, an angel. John says he would prefer the same room and bed myself. I want to be next to the woman I'm in love with and married to. Always want her in our bed, sleeping next to one another. Isn't that sweet? Yes, we love that. Right, we've got lots more show to go, and Camellia Peterson joining us here in just about 15 minutes to talk about. Did you see that she was getting attacked on Twitter for giving out dating advice? Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. So there's this like these weird. The funny thing is about like the populist Republicans, many of them is that they're Democrats. They just don't realize it. And so when they attack people like Camellia or myself, they attack us from the left, but they're like, "You're a rhino," and they're like, because they're opposed to things like school choice, which is like a Republican, like conservative issue, not just a libertarian issue. But they're like, "You're a rhino," and you're disgusting and terrible. And we're like, "Dude, you were a Democrat 5 minutes ago, right? Like you're like down the line Hillary Clinton, and you're attacking us from the left, but saying we're not Republican enough." Anyway, it's weird. So, but they tweeted the show from Tuesday when Camellia came on, and we were talking about giving out dating advice on this show, and this Missouri Republican, I use that word very lightly with the air quotes there, was attacking Camellia for saying AFP, which she works for Americans for Prosperity, is like giving out dating advice now and stuff. So I thought it would be good if Camellia and I continued on with giving out dating advice. So we're definitely going to do that. Quantum Kitty over on Rumble, who's got some awesome comments this morning. Let's give it up for Quantum Kitty. Cat pervert. Cat pervert. He says that 59 years and my dad would still tell anyone who'd listen that mama took his breath away. They said the secret is to never stop dating. Yes, Steffi fan club. Absolutely. Let's give it up for Steffi. Burnt toast space girlfriend. Everyone's so butthurt all the time. When did they lose their sense of humor? Amen. God bless it. We are having fun on the Wake Up America show today. And it's nice to, you can listen to a lot of other libertarian shows and podcasts, and they're going to be talking about, shit about Ukraine and Zelensky and Putin. And they're going to get into the nitty gritty of the Donbass region and all that kind of stuff. But I always felt like libertarians just really needed a good gossip show. Am I right? Like just a good, fun talk show that you can sit around and drink Founding Flavors coffee to and get ready for your day. And just there's going to be plenty of time for negativity. And trust me, tonight at 7 or 8 p.m. when all the libertarians get up and get out of bed and start smoking weed and doing mushrooms and psychedelics and dropping acid and stuff like that, then you can indulge and you can watch Timcast and you can drink beer and you can just act a fool, and then you can talk about all the crazy conspiracy theories of the aliens who are behind Zelensky and the Jewish conspiracy that's taken over the Zionist government, world banking conspiracy, all that stuff. You can do all that tonight. But since we're waking up, the best part of waking up is Founding Flavors in your cup and Austin Peterson and the Wake Up America show. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Do you really want to start your day with all that? Because, I read the Wall Street Journal in the morning. I read the New York Times in the morning. I read the Washington Post in the morning. It's depressing, for God's sakes. Am I wrong? It's so depressing. We don't need that. We need to start our day with a little bit of happiness. And how about a little bit of a libertarian gossip show? We need it, right? Howdy, Rumblers. Good morning. One Patriot listener. Glad to have you here. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. If you're just tuning in, I'm your boy AP. Make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the show so that you can get updates when we go live every Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time is the Wake Up America show. We've got lots of great guests and topics. We always have a lot of time. Rare Camellia says, Gail, I think Gail is the person who's like attacking us. She says, so I had no idea Gail tweeted that, LMAO. She thought Scott was on her side and has never understood how Scott and I get along because she has no sense of humor. That's true. Oh, we got a new order from AP for Liberty shop. What is it? Oh, somebody bought some decaf coffee. I think that's our first sale of our decaf coffee. Hell yeah. Thank you to who that is. If you're listening to the show this morning, of course, I don't say your name, but of course, you can maintain your privacy. But thank you for buying a cup of Founding Flavors coffee. We're super appreciative for that. Every sale goes to support cause that you believe in, and that is economic freedom and personal liberty. One more time for our friend buying some coffee from AP for Liberty shop. We appreciate that. We'll get that order processed and out as soon as possible. All those orders are going to be arriving here really soon. Let me check out the app that I use for this one. This is really exciting. I love like being in this business, and I'm super excited to expand it and to get more competitive and to provide you guys with better quality service and products and things like that. I mean, I really love commerce, and I love being able to I love being able to find a way to serve customers in better and more efficient ways. Like I'm a natural capitalist. The next thing that Stephanie and I are going to do is we're going to actually start going kind of door to door. We're going to go take some meetings here with people in our community and try and sell to people here in our community locally and see if we can get our product on shelves, maybe even some store shelves. I don't think it'll like, it would be too much, I think, to try and get to Walmart or Target or anything like that. They probably wouldn't accept us, but those are like notoriously difficult. But maybe like small gift shops or things like that here in Jefferson City, maybe even Columbia. We really do have some big plans and dreams for our coffee brand and other things as well. But yeah, I see that we've got in transit. We've got coffee in transit all over the country. Going to be heading out here very soon. I'm excited about that for everybody. I hope you enjoy it. Make sure you check it out at AP for Liberty Shop. That's AP for Liberty Shop.com and get yourself some coffee. Get your too. All right, here we go. Ra-da-da, ra-da-da. What else we got on the show? Let's see. I didn't see you try and say my name. Most avoided is difficult. Actually, I think I could pronounce that fairly easily. I just want to make sure I keep your identity secret, right? Honestly, until AP reminds me, I never remember to click the like button. I know that's what happens. We got 56 people watching us on Rumble this morning. I love Rumble. You guys are like going to be dominating YouTube very soon. I mean, you already kind of are, but it's going to continue to get bigger just because if you think about it, I've got 590 subscribers on Rumble and I've got 36,000 on YouTube. And another new order over on, get out of here. Shut up. Did we just sell another bag of coffee? Yeah, we did. Oh yeah, Franklin's Electric Elixir. So excited. We know you're going to love it, and when you do, that you'll come back for more. I hope that you will consider making us your coffee brand. Thank you for that. We appreciate very much. Quantum Kitty, thank you for your buy. And if you love the coffee, I hope you will continue to come back from us and buy from us. And if you don't, I understand. All right. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel because basically the world is beautiful and you are beautiful as well. The Wake Up America show, bringing you the absolute best in Liberty Talk in the morning. And it's like a Liberty Gossip show. It's kind of like, how Wake Up America is like the Wake Up America. It's not Wake Up America. It's Good Morning America. Yeah. They're the mainstream media. They're like Good Morning America. It's like that, except interesting and funny, and also we have we don't have Tom Cruise or anything like that on. But would you rather watch Tom Cruise or Camellia Peterson? Yeah, I'd rather watch Camellia too. Wood Hippie texting in about crushing on your wife. He says, crush sounds young. Betty White says she and her husband always had a crush on each other. That's beautiful. Absolutely, it is. Thank you, Wood Hippie. Did we sell another bag of coffee? Good gracious, guys, you're gonna make me blush. Now I think she wouldn't mind. Camellia bought herself a beautiful bag of Jeffersonian Java. Yeah, Camellia. Hey, where's that? There we go. So exciting, guys. It's so exciting. Would it be nice? You know what I want to happen? I want to become Rich, and then what I want to do is I want to give Camellia her own show. What do you say? Should we do that? Then let's hire Camellia. Then she can give relationship advice. You know what we should do is we should give Camellia her own dating show, and then she can mix and match stuff. We'll have like a reality show. It'll be like a libertarian dating show, conservative libertarian dating show, and it'll be like the biggest freak show on earth. I promise you, it'll be awesome. Camellia can. All right. Well, I'll save the jokes about at Camelia's expense until she's on here because she can't defend herself yet. So we'll wait until she's on the show. Careful what you say, Austin. She just bought coffee from you. Glad to have you here on the Wake Up America show. If you haven't bought a cup of our delicious Founding Flavors coffee, what are you waiting for? Check it out today. And if you like, buy yourself one bag. And if you like it, make the switch. If you decide to buy more than one bag, if you're like, hey, I actually want to try both of these, remember, go to the bundles page. And that way you get a little bit of a discount when you buy more than one bag. And if you love it, you come back, you want to buy more, just do a subscription plan. You can do one every 1 month, every 2 months, every 3 months, or it makes a really beautiful gift as well. So if you have a libertarian in your life, a liberty lover or a conservative who loves the founding fathers, I mean, think about how awesome a gift that would be. Like, Christmas gift, for example, right? Buy all of the founding fathers coffee and get a gift. I would love that, wouldn't you? Yeah, you can check that out at apforlibertyshop.com. All right, well, Camellia will be joining us here in just a few minutes. Before we get to Camellia, I've got more video clips to share with you. Why don't we go back and watch the video clip that everybody's talking about on the internet.
Unreasonable people, you're holding our cat.
How? I'm not even in there. I want you to explain how.
If you would go in your yard and
I want you to
say,
explain how,
Mercury,
because I'm
go
pointing
home,
the camera
don't
at
come
you.
in our yard anymore.
She
They
will not
want you
listen.
to...
She's a cat. She doesn't speak English.
Oh, really? This doesn't mean go home?
No.
Huh?
Hand signals don't mean anything. It's a cat, dude.
Really? Okay. All right. Well, we'll have the police department figure it out.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Great idea.
All right. Listen. No, so the cat doesn't eat and drink anything over there, right?
No.
Oh,
9.5
no,
million views
right?
of this.
No, never.
No.
No, never.
Never. Yeah, never.
Yeah, you cat pervert.
Oh my God, you guys are asking.
I've done nothing to bring the cat. I've done nothing to bring the.
Literally Karen.
This dude's lost.
Pervert.
This dude, he's lost it. He's lost it.
Legit cat pervert.
Stop.
Cat pervert.
He's lost it.
You don't know, it's not.
Legit.
He's lost it. He's lost it. Oh no.
Come on,
All right,
Oh,
all
my
right, all right.
property.
It's time.
I'm calling the police because you're harboring our cat.
Are you guys ready to have Camellia on the show and give you guys some dating advice? What do you say? You ready? We're going to have a lot of fun here in just a few minutes. And then don't forget, too, JD Tuccille will be joining us this morning at 8:30 to respond to all of the attacks on Reason Magazine for their attack on Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which was just a defense of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saying that they should all be in jail. It's just a winding, twisting world. It's going to be a great show. You don't want to miss a single minute. We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Donald Trump and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bush. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bush blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay there. Cat Pervert, good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Peterson. We're glad to have you here. I need to get that. I think somebody suggested it, and I saw it in the stream, that I need to get that clip and just cut that little part, the Cat Pervert, and just put that in as a little sound effect like my other ones, like this one, you know, Cat Pervert, you know.
How dare you?
As well as this one. This one sounds a little bit too real, though.
FBI, open up!
That'll scare any libertarian. FBI, open up. We're glad to have you on the Wake Up America show. Make sure you click that like button if you are just tuning into the stream right now and you're enjoying the content. Subscribe to the channel so that you can get updates for the Wake Up America show. I'm really excited. We're almost to 600 followers over on Rumble, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we're getting a lot of views over there, which is great. Imagine if I had 1,000 followers on Rumble, or 2,000 or 3,000 followers on Rumble. I can imagine we've have a huge audience over there. Do you think that we deserve it? Well, you can help support us by clicking that like button and subscribing to the channel. If you're enjoying the content you have right now, I think you're going to like what we have for you next. The lovely Camellia Peterson joining us on camera. Nice to see you, Camellia. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm doing well. I've obviously been very busy because, it's a busy day for me yesterday when I don't know if I opened Twitter more than once after 7 a.m. until about 7 last night. And so I had missed all of the coffee drama, but and I missed apparently tweeting, our troll account tweeting about the dating advice. But when I logged onto Twitter last night, like 5 minutes later, I was ready to log off because everything, it's not even a full moon. Like, people are crazy right now. And everything was about Margot Robbie and being mid and all of this, what
Okay. You want to go there? You want to bring that up? I actually think that is worthy of discussion for a brief moment, because the anger, the rage, the pushback from people out there for someone suggesting that Margot Robbie is not an absolute goddess. I really do kind of identify with this one guy online who kind of has like a cowboy persona when he says that, she really is not a 10 because she really just, Margot Robbie, she's pretty and all, but she doesn't have giant boobs like Barbie would.
It is kind of funny that they didn't give the actress for Barbie the very disproportionate body shape that Barbie's always had.
I don't know that that's disproportionate, because I really feel like women who say things like that when it comes to Barbie, you just don't understand. There are a lot of women who are built that way. And, we men, we really love and appreciate those women for that reason. Not that reason alone, but, women who say it's disproportionate, I feel like, are sort of projecting, if you will.
Well, I mean, I don't know. And they've changed Barbie a little bit over the years, but it used to be like if you had translated, Barbie's proportions into real life, like the woman would not be able to walk decently because of her waist size to her bust size to her hip size.
Right,
And
but
yes,
there are a lot of women who have that
thing.
problem.
There are women who are like that. I don't know if they are, if I would say that there are a lot. I would say that they're probably more likely the exception, but yeah.
Maybe it's just that they are overrepresented in the women that I dated, but I'm not
Oh,
quite
well.
but what I really like is the analysis that someone posted that I thought was funny, but also sort of true, is that she's hot enough to play Barbie, but not so hot that women are intimidated by her and would be pushed away, be revolted by it. Because if she's too hot,
Right.
then women really don't like that.
Yeah, I did see something similar to that too. Maybe the same thing. And I thought that's a good point.
Absolutely. All right. Well, my dad is sending me selfies right now with his chicken. I might have to try and
Oh,
grab that and put that up on screen somehow if I can. Hold on one second, Camellia, if you don't mind. I know people really love to
I
see
love
chicken stuff.
chickens.
There's cat perverts and there's chicken perverts.
Oh my gosh.
Let's do a little chicken pervert moment here for just a second. One sec, Camellia. You're going to go off the screen so
Okay.
our listeners can see Dad and his chickens. This is fresh from the farm here. This is live from Stonegate Farms in Peculiar, Missouri. You can see there's the chicken. Dad is being a chicken pervert right there. Who knows what he's doing with that chicken? Just kidding, Dad. That's Papa Peterson, John D, right there with his chicken. So let's give the chicken a round of applause. Steffi and I want to get chickens. Chickens are actually a little bit harder to take care of than people would assume, right? John Burke was giving us some advice the other day about how to, the best way to take care of chickens and keep the flies off them and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, keeping them protected and safe from predators is the hardest part, apparently.
Yeah, it really is. We kept chickens for a long time, and actually for being as rural as we were, I free ranged for a long time, except for they were closed up at night. And I was amazed that, it took a few years before we're surrounded by predators, obviously, because they're surrounded by woods. And it did take them a while, though, to really start getting up the gumption to make attacks. But boy, once they started, and then like it's hard to figure out what's doing it. And then they can, like, you get the right one, especially raccoons, they will find any way and every way to get in any kind of possible gap in your fencing. Or it's just like, anyway, that was actually what did me in. Was I think it was a raccoon that just, I mean, decimated it. I got down to one chicken, that poor bird.
What did you think of that story of RFK's event with the guy who farted loudly? Was this an awesome story or what?
Well, that was hilarious. I thought, our friend Chris Spangles, where I got that. And, it's like when it first opens up and it says two elderly men, I was thinking RFK Jr. was one of those. And then it wasn't. Oh, but that just, man, the jokes just wrote themselves all through that. The writer did a good job with that article.
All right. Well, Camellia, let's talk about the newest TikTok trend of modern flirting. I know that I sent this to you yesterday, but when I saw that we were getting so much controversy from your dating advice, I thought let's double down here and talk about it. Let's get some more dating advice. Now, Camellia, you are in a unique position on this story. And I think maybe rather than me sort of like explain to our listeners why your point of view on this one might be rather one-sided. Maybe you could explain to our listeners and then go into tell us the story.
Okay, so this is I just lost it. This is not up in front of me. It's the triangle. Yes, I know. So we should probably set this up as the triangle method of flirting. I'm getting there. Oh Lord. Anyway, so it's the idea that in flirting, if you intentionally like to convey your interest to somebody, you look at one eye and then you look at their mouth and then you look at the other eye. And so my first joke when I saw this was that might be a little difficult for me. And the reason being, for those, and in all seriousness, for those who haven't picked up on this, Austin and I refer to this once in a while and kind of inside jokes, but one of my eyes is a prosthesis. I've had a prosthetic eye since I was 5 years old. And so, they don't always look precisely the same way. And so sometimes it can be, a little hard to tell where I'm looking. So I don't know. It's funny to me, though, that they put out these things like this, the triangle method of flirting. And I guess it's like big on TikTok. It's kind of like we find new phrases for, things to get excited about that are just like as old as time and common sense. And,
So wait a minute. So this pause. So triangle method of flirting. So this is a TikTok trend where they're explaining how to flirt with someone using the triangle method. And the triangle method is what now? How does this work?
Well, you look at, I mean, when you're looking at, the person that you're interested in, you're flirting with, you look at one eye and then you like look at their mouth and then you look at the other eye. Now, obviously there's a way to do this that, shouldn't be like, as if you're like very pointedly doing this, that's going to be really awkward. But so, you have to quickly look, from one to the other. And so supposedly that, I don't know if that facilitates eye contact. I don't know what the big deal is, because to me, body language is just like, people do this normally without thinking about it, because if you're interested and you're flirting with someone and you're interested in that way, you're probably also thinking about kissing them. And so your eyes are probably also going to be, unconsciously drawn to their mouth.
So if somebody were to try this on you, it would be more of the like rectangle method.
It could be.
If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. We're trying to keep things a little not too serious this morning, having a little bit more fun with cat perverts, chicken pics, and discussions of flirtations with my friend Camellia Peterson, who's joining us right now. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the channel that you're watching us on this morning so that you can get more fun morning flirtations. with Austin on the Wake Up America show. We're glad to have you here. Anna Bananarama, glad to see her again, says anyone who needs a method to flirt is a robot. I kind of agree, right? Like, to me, flirtation is the kind of thing that is like an acquired skill that you pick up over time. I kind of had after a while, I would have guy friends asking for advice, from me on how to like date and pick up girls and talk to them. And there are certain things that you can recommend, but most people really just don't have the courage to do what's necessary to get done. And I've also kind of flipped on like approaching women these days. Like it used to be like I used to approach a lot, right? Make a lot of approaches, and it's like like any kind of sales. After a while, every once in a while, somebody's going to return fire, if you will. But now my approach is different, and I advise men, not to approach women, and specifically not to ask them out on dates. And it's funny because Stephanie was talking to somebody the other day who was talking about like being single and lonely, and how do they get a boyfriend or whatever. It was obviously a girl, and she was telling her, well, what you need to do is you need to approach men. You need to go out and approach men and try and if you see a man that you like, you need to ask him out on a date, right? Because I watch a lot of videos, like red pill videos, Camellia, and one of the constant themes that I see in like the titles of these videos is why men don't approach women anymore. And there's a lot of
Sure.
good reasons not
Yeah.
to approach women, not just the whole, oh, he's a creep or he's whatever, this kind of stuff. But I mean, like, women make themselves very unapproachable especially when they huddle up into groups, right? And then it's impossible to talk to one of them because if you have to flirt with a girl in front of all of her girlfriends, there's just no way you're going to win their approval, especially from the fat one who's going to do everything she can to try and make sure that nobody, none of the girls leave her, right?
Yeah, I don't, honestly have a lot of experience with huddling with groups of women in bars or other places. Not that I'm not ever with other women, but so I don't know. I can't speak to that precisely, but I do understand um, a man's hesitation to approach women in public. And it was funny because a couple of weeks ago, I think I probably tweeted this, but it's gotten to the point where um, because the women who find everything to be offended about and have been so loud about it, um, men can't even do something, hold a door open, or say something, say a compliment to a woman in public or anything like that. And I was walking through Target a couple of weeks ago, and don't tell anybody I was in Target. And there was a reason. But anyway, I was walking through Target a couple of weeks ago, and like I just out of the corner of my eye saw this young guy kind of walking towards me, and he said, "Excuse me," he's like, "I just wanted to tell you that I really like your dress." And I was like, that was very sweet. It's very nice. And I was like, I didn't get
Simp.
excited, didn't overreact. And I just,
Simp.
stopped and said, thank you.
And did he ask you for your number?
No, he did not. And you know
So
what? I don't know that there was even any ulterior motive like that. So
no, Camellia, stop being so naive. Okay. All right. So why men don't approach women anymore. This was a really good article that I read. Women don't want to be approached, but if you approach them and they don't like you or think you're attractive enough, you will be called a creep. Right? A perfectly normal and decent guy would be labeled a creep by a woman simply because he's not her type. Right? Another guy says, I've never gotten a clear signal from a woman. My female friends have pointed out positive body language as signals, but they're too ambiguous for me to act on. Like Steph and I watched this video the other day where we talked about one of these signals, which is still rather ambiguous, but you have to really be looking to see these signs. Is a girl will not just play with her hair, but she will bare her neck. See, you don't even know. And I
yeah,
knew this, right? This is a sign that a woman is interested is when she like if she has her hair in front, right? A lot of women do. They'll like you do right now, right? You have your hair in front. But if you were to suddenly be approached by a man who might, you might be attracted to, you would take your hair and go like this. Pull it back, right? And bare your neck. See,
well, thanks a
because
lot.
you're
I'm going to be
thinking about it.
I know I'm gonna be totally self-conscious about my hair now all the
Right, but
time.
here's the thing, like, I know how you are in your imagination, you were picturing it and you consciously, subconsciously put your head back like this, but you had to restrain yourself from pulling your hair back because you were imagining being approached by an attractive man there. And so you understand that these subconscious cues that women behave on are they're rather ambiguous. Right? A woman will think,
Sure.
"Oh, it's just common knowledge. When I do this, I'm obviously interested. If I'm playing with my hair, I'm obviously interested." I mean, Steffi knows this too because she'll sometimes see me interacting with a female and having a conversation with them, and then they'll start playing with their hair and doing things with their hair, and then later Stephanie will be like, "Man, she was really into you," and I'm like, "How did you know?" And she goes, "Because of how much she was playing with her hair." So was that not obvious to you that was one of the clear signs, Camellia, or are you just playing
I
coy?
just No, I don't think I had ever even thought about that. I mean, you always hear, I mean, what you read about, I think most commonly when they talk about cues like that with women is, if you're laughing at his jokes, if you like touch him on the arm, like physical touches are also, a pretty sure body language sign. So yeah, I hadn't really ever thought about the hair though.
So naive, Camellia. This is why, I always thought you were like part Mennonite, especially because that picture of you in the woods where you're like looking very somber and like
Oh Lord.
I don't know, were you wearing culottes or something like that? I don't
No,
know.
I was not.
Wasn't it like a jean dress though? It was like a dress made out of all denim, like jeans. You know what I'm
Well, I
talking
don't
about?
know. I did have one time. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. It's like those with that woodsy kind of scene anyways. But in terms of like approaching, men approaching women, there's too high of a risk versus reward ratio, right? So the amount of risk that a man goes to getting called a creep, right? Ambiguous language of conversation in terms of like even you didn't even know that like that was a sign. That's something I've known forever, right? But also kind of like online culture has kind of killed in-person interaction because for example text messaging,
Sure.
Camellia, like you have to as a guy you have to have a good text messaging game, which is it's a completely different set of skills than a in-person conversation. So not only do you have to have those in-person conversation skills, but you have to be able to figure out, and every woman has a different demand on like what you can say on. You never know what is acceptable or not. You can't judge their facial reactions and all this kind of stuff. I mean, at this point, I can understand why so many men just kind of throw their hands up and say, "You know what? I'm done."
Yeah, I don't, I was thinking about that actually yesterday too, in terms of how online we are and how, especially with online dating, how that sets people up for relationships because they don't start out with those body language, physical cues to begin with. They're starting really with online interactions and texting messages where it's a lot more difficult to read those things. Um, but yeah, I have that's why I have a hard time with. I don't know that I could ever do online dating apps. It just is. I think it just sets up too many unrealistic expectations. And I have been, when you talk about strategy, because I think when we talk red pill community, I think that a lot of women kind of do get offended, and I understand somewhat to a degree why, but you'll hear talk about strategy for dating and strategy for finding a woman, and that's like, oh, there shouldn't be like true love should just happen, right? It just should like walk up to your door, but that's not how the world works. And so, really, what I have read on the from the men's side of things, and I've actually lately have come across a couple of accounts for women that are sort of along those same lines as the red pill community, but for women, they're actually talking about things that women can do other than sitting back and waiting for men to come to them. On both sides, this sounds bad, but it is a numbers game. And it is like you put yourself in a position to meet a lot of people, and eventually you will, find somebody that you're compatible with.
I like that. Now, Camellia, have you started trying to approach men since you like started dating?
Well, that's a very personal question.
Yeah, that's why this show's good.
I don't know that I would phrase it quite like that. I don't know that I have approached anyone. time, I think, is not on my side at this
What do you
stage in my
mean?
life. I mean, when you talk about dating and things like that, if you're being intentional about it, you have to put yourself in situations and places to meet people. And the irony is even though like I am meeting people all of the time, it's not necessarily in that context. So I don't know. My philosophy for myself personally, I'm not looking per se.
Do you think your standards might be a little too high?
Probably.
Yeah.
I
Because
mean,
I mean, and
let's just.
we've kind of talked about this before, but I mean, like, you would like a man who is literate, and you live in Southwest Missouri.
Hey, I'm all over the
Those
state.
eyebrows. See, those eyebrows, I'll tell you right there. Can you imagine? Now, just pause for a moment, Camellia. Don't weigh in on this. Just let me rant for just a second. Now, for all the men out there who were watching that, when you saw those eyebrows shoot up like that, that's the look of rejection that you would get. If you see that look right there, see, because she knows that it's true. She would give you those eyebrows if you were to approach her with anything less than sonnet quality conversation. I mean, you could probably get away with a dirty limerick, but it better rhyme and it better be funny and it better be at the right timing when she's had a few coffee stouts. So the challenge, unfortunately, Camellia, is that like you have, I won't say impossibly high standards, but you have probably a little bit higher standards than the average female and stuff like that. Whereas like conversationalizing and things like that is not super as important, depending on like the age category that you're trying to date. But I mean, it must be difficult being a woman with a high like literacy demand because of the just lack of available options. Regionalism plays a big part into it, doesn't it?
Probably so. And, I would say it's not, when you talk about literacy, I mean, yes, proper spelling and grammar is nice.
Mhm.
It's not the end all be all,
Right.
but, it just, I don't know that anybody also wants somebody, who is exactly like them. You like people don't have to have the exact same interests to be attracted to each other. And that's certainly not the case with me either. I mean, yes, there are certain things that I'm more drawn to, but it doesn't mean that, everybody has to like the same things that I like. But I think in my case, it's probably a little bit different than somebody who is, say, considerably younger because I'm at a different stage in life. There maybe is not as much urgency as far as creating a family because I've already done that.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean that's it's a little bit different, when you're at my stage of life.
Camelia, do you want to like drop your handle, your Instagram handle, or anything like that? So if any guys out there who are watching are interested, they might reach out.
Hey, well, Twitter's the dating app, right? I'm at Rare Camellia. We all know that already. So, but well, anyway, we should not go there.
Chris Morrill says that I've upped my standards, so up yours. Camellia, anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go today?
Well, I would just like to say, speaking like when I told you when I logged onto Twitter yesterday, and all the weirdness was going on with Margot Robbie and Mid and all these other kind of things. And like the other thing that's been happening there that I've been seeing pop up all the time is I think it's about time for us to like leave Britney Spears and the crazy plane chick alone. Can we just like let them live their lives at this point? Everybody's obsessed. I'm like, we all know that the plane chick, she's not real. She's the one that's not real at this point.
Which, speaking of, we have a That Emmer Effer Is Not Real t-shirt and women's racerback tank over at apforlibertyshop.com.
Do you really?
Yes, we do. Camellia, thank you very much for coming on the show today. Thanks for putting up with my hostile line of questioning of your very personal issues, but I think people really enjoyed the content. So thanks for coming on today. We'll see you again next week.
See ya. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks very much. What do you think of Camellia Peterson?
Yeah, you cat pervert.
Oh my God, you guys are absent.
I've done nothing to bring the cat. I've done nothing to bring the. This dude's lost. This dude, he's lost it. He's lost it.
We'll be right back with JD Tuccille to talk about the RFK controversy on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Oh no.
It was 1946. A battle was fought, not overseas, but right here on American soil. The Battle of Athens. An intense struggle against election fraud and for the rights promised by our founding fathers. Driven by the Second Amendment, ordinary citizens stood tall and fought back. Help us expose this momentous battle of integrity and bravery. Your support can make a difference. Visit givesendgo.com/bleedamerican and pledge your support, because we believe in the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the spirit of we the people. Let us not forget, we bleed American.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. I do often sometimes call the Wake Up America show kind of like a libertarian gossip talk show, but we do occasionally do hard news. If you enjoy the content, make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the channel so that you can help us to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. Because even though we go on tangents and I tease Camellia about dating and her dating life, and we talk about those kinds of social issues. Tomorrow, my wife, Stephanie, will join us. I'm sure we'll talk about psychology and all kinds of girly things and stuff like that. Sometimes we talk about Ukraine giving up the Donbass and the fight between Russia and Ukraine. And we talk about presidential politics, and we do talk about a lot of those things like that. So if you tuned in today and you're like, Austin, I thought this was a news show. Well, guess what? We're back to the news. Reason Magazine, one of my favorite reads, every day. I read it for JD Tuccille's commentary, as well as Brian Doherty, who I really admire over there. But some people apparently are not big fans of Reason Magazine these days. They're critical of Reason Magazine's approach to the current political climate. And, while I don't agree with everything that I read over there, I'm always kind of suspicious of periodicals where I do agree with everything that they're saying, because I kind of feel like they're trying to gin me up. Much like Democratic presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You see, I'm very skeptical of politicians, especially when tigers try and act like they're changing their stripes. But I wonder what hard-ass desert anarchist JD Tuccille has to say. He's joining me on the phone right now. Good morning, JD. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you here, JD. You are a writer at Reason Magazine. You've got a column, The Rattler, which I get as a newsletter, which I really appreciate and enjoy. You write about, things like the national security state, privacy, cops abusing their power and things like that, which is, right down the line, pure libertarian stuff. But a lot of libertarians online have been very critical of Reason Magazine's coverage, specifically of Democrat Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I wonder if you wouldn't mind just kind of starting off by telling us what your impression of RFK Jr. is, and maybe speak to a little bit about why so many libertarians are kind of fawning over him.
Absolutely. I mean, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is an anti-establishment candidate in the Democratic Party. He's also an anti-vaxxer, and he's frankly a bit of a nut. He has a long history of taking crazy positions, and may I say, deeply authoritarian positions. But he's found this kind of this new base recently because a lot of people are questioning the establishment. He staked himself out an anti-establishment position, and people who have convinced themselves that that's enough are kind of rallying to his flag, but without considering whether what he's offering is a better alternative to the establishment or just a different flavor of authoritarianism. And that's kind of the basis of the debate that's going on now.
So when you say that he's, taken some nakedly authoritarian stances, what comes to mind?
The big one that's been discussed recently is that in 2014, he flat out called for the jailing of people who question climate change and for the disestablishment of think tanks and activist groups who oppose green policy. He basically called it the corporate death penalty. They should be, like groups like the Cato Institute should be disbanded. So that's deeply authoritarian. But if you want to go back further, I looked in our archives. We had an article in 2008 about him when he was being considered to head the Environmental Protection Agency. And the article is headlined, "A Chavista at the EPA?" And that's because he was a huge fan of Hugo Chavez, the old dictator of Venezuela. And in fact, he did business with Citgo, which is owned by the Venezuelan government, it's an oil company owned by the Venezuelan government. He has a long history, basically, of carbon copy Hollywood left positions, with two exceptions these days that make him popular. And those two exceptions are what people have rallied around, which is that he opposed the COVID lockdowns, and I give him credit for that. And he is not all in on kind of an endless checkbook for funding Ukraine's war against Russia. And again, I think questioning that is also a good idea. But it's really the only two positions that might get him kicked out of a Hollywood party.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I mean, it probably would get him kicked out of a Hollywood party just because the left has become 100% authoritarian. It's just that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is like 90% authoritarian. Would you say that's fair?
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely fair. I mean, he still has doubts that anybody who questions climate change and green policy has free speech rights. Nick Gillespie and Zach Weissmuller recently did a very long, extensive hour and 22-minute video interview with him. And they asked him about that directly. I mean, do you still think that people who question climate change should be muzzled? And to his credit, a little bit he temporized, but he also said, and on the individual level, I should say, he kind of grants that individuals speech rights on this point. But he did say that he compared questioning green policy to fraud and said that fraud should be punished, and that because it's false information. And he was a little astonished when Zach pushed back and said, don't you see the parallels between that and the fact that the government was leaning on social media to muzzle you during the COVID lockdowns? And he kind of paused and said, you have a good point there. And Zach did have a good point. The amazing thing, though, is that it's 3 years later, and only now when it's pointed out to him does he seem to see the parallels between him calling for people to be jailed or think tanks to be shut down for alleged misinformation and himself being muzzled for alleged misinformation. He's still an authoritarian.
Yeah. Now, JD, I know this is not a jab at you directly, but maybe it is indirectly in the sense, like in terms of anarchists. But as someone who's been around the libertarian movement for the last 15 years or so, I do find it fascinating that somebody mentioned to me the other day that he got a standing ovation at Porkfest, right? Which is typically anarchists there at that gathering. But there's one thing that I've learned in the last 15 years of my activism, JD, is that anarchists largely love them some politicians, right? But you're not really supposed to. I just find it so fascinating that so many people who consider themselves to be anti-statists would be fawning all over someone who is such a statist. I mean, you see the hypocrisy that I'm kind of pointing out here?
Oh, I absolutely do. And you're right on the mark. And I'll grant you that a lot of people who call themselves anarchists will be all in if just the right people were wielding the bludgeon. And I think that's because a lot of people will pick up names, whether it's anarchist or libertarian or conservative, really are just kind of angry at the establishment, powers that be. And I think we've seen that in that. I mean, some of the same people who supported Ron Paul a decade ago drifted on supporting Donald Trump, or split between Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, and now have drifted to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The only thing that really binds those people together is anti-establishment. They're against the political powers that be, the people who wield that power right now. But there's no consistency in the ideology if you run that line from Ron Paul to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., except maybe on foreign policy issues. Um, Other than that, you're talking about just the only thing that really binds them together is being opposed to the establishment. But what they offer in opposition to the establishment varies wildly from from an individualist pro-liberty stance and for one candidate, Ron Paul, to a variety of authoritarian alternatives. Anger at the establishment is not enough. It's also not a political position, and it's not a good enough reason to call yourself a libertarian, an anarchist, or a conservative. You actually have to believe in something and then maybe advocate for those things rather than just kind of get behind whoever is the angriest candidate or craziest candidate at the scene at the moment.
Man, you're nailing it, JD, and I'm absolutely with you there, 100%. I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, although I do want to ask you more on the big brain philosophy style of things. Why so many anarchists or people that I know that are formerly anarchists, descended into authoritarianism. But really briefly, let me reset for those who might just be tuning in and are like, wait a minute, I thought this was about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We are going to get back to that. But if you are just tuning in and you do like this content and you do like these conversations, make sure you click the like button and subscribe. I'm Austin Peterson, and I'm the host of the show. And I'm speaking to JD Tuccille of Reason Magazine. And what prompted this discussion was a video that was put out by Reason that was critical of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., suggesting that perhaps he doesn't deserve the sort of refashioning of himself that libertarian podcasters and pundits and people are giving him. I mean, not to bitch too much about this, right? Because the last thing you want to be accused of in libertarian circles anymore is being a beta, a soy boy, or a pussy, or a cuck, JD. But I mean, you'll see some of these people who call themselves the libertarian right, who are out there saying, defending Nick Fuentes. And people who
Oh God, yeah.
advocate for actual open national socialism and blatantly, actual racist policies that are authoritarian policies, and saying, oh, that, and defending him whilst attacking people who are critical of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for actual libertarian reasons, right? So there's so much nonsense out there for people who are flying what they ostensibly call the libertarian banner, that it does make oneself a little bit embarrassed to be seen, near them or even connected to them tangentially.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, a lot of people are just feeding off of rage these days, and that
Yeah.
includes a lot of the so-called libertarian right, paleo-libertarian, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people have wrapped themselves in this flag not because they actually believe in individualism, free markets, limited governments or no governments, the natural rights of humankind. It's because they're just ticked off at the establishment. They're angry, and anger is a powerful drug, and it drives us. It could drive anybody to just take oppositional positions. And I think that's what you're seeing in the case of a lot of these people. They're angry at the powers that be. They're furious about the COVID lockdowns. They're worried about what's happening to the value of the dollar, and they really just kind of want to burn things to the ground.
Mm.
And they look for a vehicle for that. And then right now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. looks like the vehicle for that. Except I'll tell you what, if he were to get elected president, the power that he wields would be just as brutal and authoritarian. And I could tell you exactly what areas it would be in. It would definitely be in environmental policy. That's his thing. Would he nationalize the oil companies? He says he would. Would he shut down a lot of private energy, distribution and consumption? Yes, he would. He would exercise a lot of power over the lives of the people who call themselves libertarians, but are rallying behind an authoritarian like him just because they're so angry at the people who currently wield power.
From anarchy to authoritarianism, let me get into this for just a moment. We are going to get big brain and go into the weeds here for just a moment, JD. And I'd like to talk to you about this because, in the years that, as I've sort of developed my political philosophy and tried to, hone it to as fine a point as I can, I have a lot of friends who are anarchists or anarcho-capitalists or people who call themselves such, right? I consider myself a constitutional minarchist because of like the problems of the rights of children and other issues and such. However, when I see so many of my formerly anarchist friends devolving into authoritarians, I'm reminded of some of my studies of the anarcho-syndicalist left, right? The communists who consider themselves to be anarchists. And what I find fascinating is that it's a very straight line from anarcho-syndicalists to authoritarian communism. And some of these people in my studies, they're anarchists today and now because it suits them until they get into power, and then of course they become Stalinists, or they become like Che Guevara or the Castros, or they become Kim Jong Un, right? Because the only reason that they support anarchy in this current moment, either knowingly or not, is because they need to be anarchists in order to destroy the current system, to have a revolution, so that they can then take power and then wield power as authoritarian tyrants. So, I mean, do you see this as well as I do, right? In the anarchist right, in the anarcho-capitalist right, that so many people who flew the black and yellow flag were only doing so in such a way so as to install themselves in positions of power?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot of people, I think, adopt the term anarchist or libertarian because they're really furious. It's rage, it's expression of rage, and deep down they're nihilists. They want to smash the people at whom they're so angry. I mean, you mentioned the anarcho-syndicalist left, and the best expression of that was during the Spanish Civil War, when perhaps the most brutal faction in that civil war were the anarchists who actually had death wagons. They'd have skulls, nailed to these trucks. They drive around as assassination squads and murder people, including on their own side because they weren't radical enough. I do think we see an expression of that in the current anarchist movement and libertarians now too, is that they're just angry. They want to smash the people they see as the enemy. They want to destroy the machine. And if they were to get into power, they'd be the greatest embodiment of the abuse of power that you can imagine, because that rage embodied, that rage empowered with the state, with control over the state, would be extraordinarily dangerous to everybody else. So yeah, we're seeing a huge expression of that. A lot of people who call themselves by theoretically anti-authoritarian names are not. They're potential authoritarians in waiting.
How do we spot that there? Because it's an interesting question, right? When you see people who, I mean, when you look at, like, for example, the sort of nihilistic rage, right? These are people who believe in nothing, right? And their rage at the establishment, in large part, is really just a jealousy of the establishment. I mean, populism in itself, as an anti-elitism, is a jealousy of the establishment. I see it all the time, where you get these people who are, they call themselves MAGA populists, where then they get a big following online. Maybe Trump pays a bit of attention to them or retweets them or something like that, and then once they get power, all of a sudden the anti-elitist talk goes out the window. They become the elite.
Oh, that's absolutely the case. Yeah, I mean, it's in-group versus out-group. Populism is an expression of the out-group that wants to be the in-group. Once they become the in-group, they're at least as bad as the people they just replaced. You see that all the time. So I mean, anti-authoritarianism. How do you distinguish a true anti-authoritarian from someone who's just as ticked off at the machine and wants to replace it? I think if you see people who stop short and say, you know what, you're enraging me, you have a right to speak. When you see people who say, these are your rules and we're just using them against you in terms of like shutting down speech or penalizing the other side with abuses of civil liberties, whenever people can justify an authoritarian action by saying, well, the other side did it first, you're looking at an authoritarian because they don't actually believe in liberty. They think it's some kind of privilege to be allowed at a later date when the revolution is achieved. That moment will never come. People who can justify to themselves backing an authoritarian and engaging in authoritarian actions won't stop because they don't have principles. People who stop short and say, you know what, I can't do this. And I might win a victory right now, but it would just poison, it would be a violation of my principles. Somebody who can do that is a true anti-authoritarian.
JD, is the American Revolution the only example of a liberal revolution in world history where the people who overthrew the tyranny that overcame them then instituted a government that had ostensibly some checks and balances on itself?
It's the best example of it. I mean, if you were to go into say the revolutions of 1848 in Europe, which were by and large liberal revolutions, you'll find some other successes, but they're not as dramatic as the U.S. Revolution or as long lasting. I mean, most of the governments that were set up in 1848 ceased existing a long time ago or morphed out of recognizability. The American Revolution really is the most successful liberal or libertarian. I'm using the old version here. Um, Revolution ever, and that's because we were incredibly lucky. George Washington, and I've been critical of George Washington in the past, walked away from an opportunity to crown himself. I mean, how many people throughout history would have given up on that potential power? So we were incredibly fortunate by people who waged that revolution, by the quality of the common people at that time who were unbelievably literate and well informed for a common population, and were also principled across the board, even when they wildly disagreed with each other. They did so within a range of tolerance and advocacy of liberty.
Hmm.
Replicating that again is really a tough ask because revolutions are dangerous. I mean, you're using violence or you're using at least chaos, and you're upturning the system or replacing it with something else. And there is eternally the temptation to punish your enemies and impose a powerful regime that will fade at some point in the future while you make everything right.
Hmm.
And of course, that doesn't happen. So, we were really lucky.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: is that the problem, of course, is that especially when you're an anarchist, right, without leaders, like when you see what was able to be accomplished with good leadership, such as George Washington and John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, of which they sort of represented checks and balances to a large extent because they were so different in their ideologies, on a granular level. But in the bigger picture, of course, the umbrella of their views was to create a liberal republic, even though it was an expansionist republic, right? And Jefferson was certainly a key part of that in his unconstitutional Louisiana Purchase, which at the end of the day probably wasn't a bad idea, even if it were unconstitutional. So there's all of these hypocrisies and sort of idiosyncrasies in achieving our common goals, JD, in that if you look at the situation that we have today, now I know you don't desire to have leaders, but I guess maybe I would disagree in that one because God, I don't yearn for an authoritarian, but I yearn for a George Washington, somebody who doesn't desire power, who would take power and then walk away from it, not someone who will cling to it bitterly, like and try and hold on to it at every last breath that they have, like a Dianne Feinstein or something like that. But I mean, I don't see anyone today, and maybe this is why you just accept anarchy rather than minarchy to a certain extent. I don't see anyone today who even approaches an iota of the type of leadership that was at the helm in the late 1700s in the United States, other than some brief flashes of it now and then in the United States. I can understand why people might go towards nihilism just simply for the fact that what is there to embrace? What do you look for like as hopeful? What could make you optimistic and not a nihilist in America today?
Well, I mean, you're right about this. I mean, if you want to have a system of government that exercises power, you want to have wise and restrained leadership. And if we could clone not just the founders, but the minds of the founders, and of the very few people like them afterwards, you might be able to have a safe political class that could be entrusted with that power. Even they didn't think that was going to work, which is why they built in these amazing checks and balances. They had to invent them. They were supposed to restrain the state, whether or not the people in the future from of their time wanted the state to be restrained. It didn't work, obviously, or it did work, but it eroded over time. Nothing lasts forever. And so that's why we're at the point now where we're wondering, okay, how do we get back to a restrained, limited state with individual liberty? Um, Anarchism doesn't have all the answers. I'm what's called a philosophical anarchist, meaning I don't think it has all the solutions. I just think the state lacks legitimacy. And I also worry that we're not going to be able to find wise leaders to exercise the power we hand them. I look around the landscape and I see nobody. There are some good people in the country. There are some good people in the world. But I mean, are they enough to constitute a political class that's going to carry on and stay within limits? I don't think so. And I don't have an easy answer as to how we get from here to a desired resolution, other than restraining the state, reimposing probably even tighter checks and balances, so that it doesn't depend upon a class of philosopher kings, which is kind of what we had in the late 18th century. Because we're not going to replicate that. We're just not going to replicate that.
Well, what about
We really need,
but what about Robert F. Kennedy Jr.?
I have no doubt that he sees himself as a philosopher king, and that some of his followers do. The problem with one of the problems, because I've gone through a number at this point, is that he's a stupid person's idea of a smart person. He has a lot of ideas. He throws out a lot of figures, but he's not introspective. He doesn't really analyze the implications of the things he says and how they would apply in a parallel context. For instance, jailing people for misinformation and then himself being penalized for alleged misinformation. He's not that smart. He is a kind of a standard issue elite leftist with a couple of variant positions on COVID lockdowns and the war in Ukraine. Human beings do vary. But no, there are no philosopher kings out there, and he's not a representation of them.
God damn, JD. I don't want to get depressed on anything like that. I do want to find a little bit of optimism. I'm the type of person who does find silver linings in every cloud. And I won't lie to you, JD. Despite Ron DeSantis's authoritarian leanings when it comes to certain issues here and there, I do sometimes long for a return to the type of civility and good feelings that we had under the Reagan era. If without a massive war on drugs and Iran Contra and the inevitable scandals that every president is mired in every day, I do sort of miss that. Maybe this is just a nostalgia for my childhood, but there was something that was it felt like being an American citizen was a badge of honor at that time. The only time in my life when I felt like there were strong positive feelings internationally towards the United States as well. Maybe that was because it was very easy to see a very stark battle of good and evil between ourselves and the Soviet Union, and that no longer exists. And we now dwell in a world of gray. But I do feel as if, to some extent, that without a president of the United States who's kind of a comedian slash blowhard in Donald Trump, or a sort of senile, rage-filled, easily manipulated leftist like Joe Biden, that a Ron DeSantis presidency could restore at least some form of order. There would not be the kind of chaos on the streets that we had during the COVID period and things like that. But I sometimes wonder if at least with a DeSantis, while there might be, some things that you and I you find extremely distasteful with his stance on the war on drugs and other things, that, at least a return to a sort of moral order of the United States might be a net positive. What do you say to that?
It could be the big issue. I think the things that you and I kind of wax nostalgic about when we look back, to say the Reagan era, and I agree that I don't think we realized then how good we had it. But there was an understanding in the 20th century up through, I mean, I would say up through the Clinton years even, that people had the right to disagree, and people had the right to think that the powers that be were wrong. There was an understanding that opposition was legitimate then, and that doesn't exist anymore. Whether you talk about Donald Trump or Joe Biden, both rageaholics and both villainize the opposition. Hillary Clinton does the same thing with the basket of deplorables. I'm not sure that Ron DeSantis has that respect for the idea that people have the right to disagree with him and to live their own lives. I hope he does. Maybe a Vivek Ramaswamy, although he's never going to be president, would be closer to that ideal. But we need to get back to that because nothing's going to work unless we agree that people have the right to dissent from each other. There has to be a recognition of the legitimacy of opposition, and if there's not that, we're not going to reclaim anything like the stable and free republic.
One last thing before I let you go, JD. This is not just kind of like a plug or anything like that, but I started a coffee company this week. That's sort of, maybe naively patriotic, but, uber patriotic, right? Based around the founding fathers. And there was an extreme backlash to it, not just from like potential competitors on the internet, but from the left, because the marketing was such that, I said, are you tired of drinking woke coffee, right? Or is the coffee you're drinking secretly communist, right? And it's kind of a play on, excuse me, what's going on with Bud Light at the moment, right? They're being punished in the consumer marketplace because of their, excuse me for just a moment, for their marketing ploy. And so I kind of see this as a market opportunity, like don't buy coffee from people that hate you. But this is the way that I see the market sort of going right now, where people have been on the left, have been socially conscious about the products that they buy, JD, so like fair trade or organic or what have you, but there hasn't really been a response as much from that on the right. I mean, do you see that as a good thing, right? Like this sort of balkanization where on one hand, there's the boycotts. I mean, it's all voluntary, but then on the other hand, right, this atomization or balkanization in the marketplace of like, Republican coffee versus Democrat coffee or what have you, right? Like that is it one inevitable? Is it two a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't think it's a good thing because products and services market themselves not based on the quality of the product and service, but based on the team, partisanship of the product and service. I think isn't a value added, but it certainly does find a niche in the marketplace. It is inevitable. Once it started, and you're right, the left started this. I remember the fair trade, and I remember Paul Newman, and the greeny and sensitive marketing. When you're using that as a marketing tactic to appeal to one segment of the audience and to implicitly exclude others, it's inevitable that other factions will do the same thing at some point. There's no way to escape it. Once it started, it couldn't stop. It had to spread, and that's what it's doing now. And I think a lot of the left is surprised that the right is doing this, and I think we will end up with factionalized marketplaces where your cup of coffee actually doesn't taste any different than the cup of coffee on the guy across the street, except they're marketed with different team partisanship affiliations. So I don't think we're going to escape that. I'm not happy about it. I'd rather choose my coffee based on which one doesn't taste like boiled gym socks. But I don't think that's where we're going. So good luck.
Thank you, JD. I appreciate it. Check it out if you like it. It's on my website at ap4libertyshop.com. I think you will, if you try it, JD, you won't think it tastes like boiled gym socks. It tastes like freedom.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, JD. Hey, thanks for coming on and having these long conversations with me. I know we get into the weeds a lot, but I think our listeners really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. You take care.
Thank you very much. It's time for me to talk to you about speaking of the balkanized marketplace, our friend John Burke's Shell Shock CBD. People are asking me, Austin, why don't you sell CBD or something like that? Because I'm not going to compete against my buddy, John Burke. I want him to be able to make some money too. It's good for us all. He asked, Austin, would you talk about my product on the show? And I said, absolutely. And I will highly endorse and recommend shellshockcbd.com for those who are interested in pain relief. And for those who are interested in just having a little bit of fun, you can check out our Fallout Gummy line, THC free, the pineapple line. That's the CBD stuff. The Fallout gummies don't contain any sort of psychotropics, if you will. However, the Delta 8 Delta bars do. Looks like a Willy Wonka bar and is ostensibly delicious. I'm too scared to try it, not gonna lie. I like the other Delta 8 gummies that they've got over there if you want to have a good time on a Friday night. But if you're interested in controlling your dosage and you're saying to yourself, I need something that will help me sleep, but if you take too much, then you actually get the jitters, which is kind of weird. But the Bomb Pop drops, absolutely delicious. The tinctures are the way to go if you're looking to really control your dosage for something that's going to make you feel all silly in the head. Check out shellshockcbd.com and use my code AP4Liberty. That's AP, the number 4, AP4Liberty And if you use my code AP4Liberty, you'll get 10% off, and you will be able to save some money and let people know that, hey, they're buying from Austin Peterson's coupon code. Use that code AP4Liberty. Visit shellshockcbd.com. And if you don't like the products that you get, they will send you your money back. What do you think about that? It's already 9 a.m. It's time for me to go. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks so much for watching the Wake Up America show. Today was a little bit silly. Tomorrow's even going to be a little bit sillier because it's Freedom Family Friday. My freedom family. My family, Stephanie P. Family Friday means Stephanie Peterson joins us tomorrow morning on the Wake Up America show, which means there's even going to be more silliness and more gossip and all that kind of stuff. But the Wake Up America show, it's libertarian, but it's kind of a libertarian gossip show, like I said. Do you enjoy your Wake Up America show with a cup of coffee? Well, why don't you consider making the switch? I happen to think that, yes, the left started it, like JD said, but you know what? We need to cancel-proof ourselves, and we need to spend our money on people and businesses that are not just the best tasting, which we are, but also support your values. I kind of disagree with JD about that. So why don't you visit my website, ap4libertyshop.com. Try one bag of Founding Flavors coffee from me, my coffee brand. And if you like it, buy more. If you don't like it, that's it, right? You can stick to your brand, but consider a switch. Not only will you be drinking delicious Freedom in the morning, but you'll be supporting it as well at ap4libertyshop.com. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP4Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your Founding Flavors at ap4libertyshop.com.